this computer.
Let's record.
Boom.
Bring me everyone. What do you mean, everyone?
Welcome to Everyone Racers, a show designed for the world of low-dollar racing and oddball car culture. It doesn't matter what kind of Lemon Champ or Lucky Track Dog league you run, SCCA or NASA, we won't discriminate as long as you drive it hard and build it yourself. Join us each week for tech discussions, tips, tricks, as well as news and notes from the world of amateur endurance racing. Whether it's on the spot, hella sweet, or we're lucky enough and I give you just the tip, we are sure you'll giggle a little and learn even less. Everyone report to the paddock.
This is Chris.
This is Chrissy.
And I'm mental with a
Yay.
mouthful of food. Sorry.
That's good
Like
timing.
you didn't know it was coming.
I tried to chew faster, just bad timing. Yeah.
Haven't heard that intro yet, so I understand it's tough to figure that out. Anyway, we are Everyone Racers. Welcome to a boring, well, not so boring BMW episode. It's episode 328. And the BMW 328 was a sports car offered by BMW from 1936 to 1940, with the body design credited to Peter. Not going to say this guy's Polish sounding last name. Szymanowski. I need something like that.
Szymanowski.
Yep, that's it. Who became BMW chief of design after World War II. So he was not chief of design yet, because this was the 30s. Got it. With its 4-speed manual and straight six, it topped out at a whopping 93 miles an hour. The 328 was introduced at the Eiffelrennen race at the Nürburgring in 1936, where Ernst Henne drove it to win the 2-liter class. So if you're not driving your incredibly valuable 1930s BMW, get out your bingo card, which still isn't done, but had some improvements. It's a little better.
93 miles an hour
incremental.
in let's just say in 1940.
36
would have been terrifying, because I'm 15 years before that or 60 years before that in the 1800s, when trains were starting to get up to 30 miles an hour, and I remember reading this, scientists were convinced that a lady's uterus would fly out.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
That was a real medical
happens
thing.
all the time.
Yeah. They thought you would not be able to breathe at speeds like that. So to be able to get into a car and do 93 miles an hour must have been awesome.
Yeah, that was fast in the 30s.
Because the only thing else would be a Duesenberg.
I feel like you probably would feel like you're going to fly out anyway.
Yeah.
Just because it's
big
a
giant
convertible
steering wheel,
yes.
Art Deco dash. Yeah.
One of these broke down near my mom's house a couple of years ago. She was out on a walk, and she's like, it's an old car. And, she has her MG, so she thinks they're all kind of the same thing. And she's, talks to the guy a little bit, and it's like, what is this? It's a 1930s something BMW. And she's like, oh, okay. Da, 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 da. Doesn't really care, and keeps going. She's like, oh, your car broke down. It was a 1930s BMW. I'm like, yeah, it's probably a 328, which means it's probably worth many hundreds.
I'll call my son. He'll know exactly what's wrong with it. It'll be fine.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Oh, well. Anyway.
Well, what you working on?
Yeah. Mental. What you start us off, buddy? What are you doing?
Okay. Well, in my so the less projects whole kind of thing has turned my entire mechanical existence into a series of overlapping project management. So it's all about space and time. So I got rid of the Moon trailer last week.
Yes,
and now the Omega is in a spot, and it's lined up. I've got plans for it. And if you remember years ago, I was given I think 3rd gen, but it's the 85 Honda Civic Si. The same year that it has the Euro headlights. It's got the sunroof.
So it's probably an 86 or 87.
Okay. Yeah. 86 or 87. No title. It cost me nothing. My friend was moving to Chicago. He needed a place to put it. I think I've texted you wanting to know what kind of motor it is, because it's definitely got a motor swap. So it is now in the garage. It has 2 weeks for me to make an evaluation of whether or not I stand a chance of getting this thing running. Otherwise, it gets chopped up and sold for scrap. So I was
Why do you
moving all of
why do you like to why can't you just sell it as is instead of
no.
cutting it up?
Well, and you what? That's valid. I'll try and sell it without
Okay.
a title.
Yeah.
And then if no
Someone
one
could do
wants
a
it,
track car project before cutting it
sure.
up.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, the shifter is in the passenger seat, so it'll need the transmission hooked up. I was under it yesterday. I have no brake calipers, but I have not been through the box of spares to see if I have them.
Mhm.
The radiators in the hatchback, the gas tanks in the hatchback. So there's some work that's becoming to it. But if if a listener wants it now, I will stop work on it and you can have it. Absolutely have it. I think it's a DZ motor. Or
All right. So that doesn't exist. It's
okay.
from the picture you sent me.
That's what it was.
It's a brown top double cam D series, which is here in one. In Japan, they were sometimes called a ZC, but because it's here in the US, it's probably a D16A1 from an 86 to 87 Integra.
You had some of those letters right.
It's completely possible though that it is a JDM motor.
Okay, which they're almost identical. So
okay.
it's fine. But
all right.
Either way, I had a few of these back in the day and did quite a lot of work on them. So, you know, like including that swap. My
so
daily
you'll be
driver,
getting a lot of text.
Yeah. My daily driver in college for a while was an 86 CRX with an 87 Integra, everything else. Engine,
because that's the only reason
brakes,
Integras
rear brakes.
existed. Yeah, was to put the underpinnings of the first gen.
Yep.
You know, even the second gen Integras, I think, if you'll do the custom panards. So
yeah, there's all kinds of ways that they swap. But anyway, that was a really fun car. It got like 38 miles per gallon on the highway and would still run like a 15 2/4 mile. It was fun.
All right. So yeah, if a listener, you know, if you're a Honda geek and you have use for this car, come get it. Otherwise I'm going to fiddle with it. And then, I've got projects, so I've got to keep moving on this one. So there's that. So it's in the garage now. I flat towed it with the RV. I was last night. We're recording this episode during the day because everybody's schedule is crazy this week.
So weird.
Yes. Yeah. But it'll be 4 days before you guys hear it. But I did the Bid Nerds with Lane from Driving While Awesome. So we did a Bid Nerds episode on that. But I had a visit from an old friend of all of us. Jeff Block, aka Speedy Cop, reached out to me. He was in town doing some stuff for his dad. So we got together, and as much as he has been here since his dad moved here, he had not actually been downtown. So we met at one of my favorite breweries. We had some tacos. I showed him the roof of the new Circa. We hung out. You know, him and his wife were actually big fans of street performers. So we walked up Fremont and he took some videos of some of the street performers on there. And then we stayed out too late and ended up having another slice of pizza and a couple of beers and just hung out for a bit. So yeah, that was my week.
That sounds great.
Fantastic.
Yeah. He sends his best to you guys.
Well,
excellent.
Chris has actually been doing car work.
I've been working on the Civic.
Lots of it.
Yeah. I have the roll cage 100% completely finished. So got all the base plates in, got the backstays in, and did a whole bunch of extra little things to the car or to the cage while I was at it. So it's got a cross brace between the strut bars. It's got a footwell intrusion bar on the driver's side.
Save it.
It's got all kinds of things.
That's the main topic.
Wow, we could talk a whole show about this kind of like
we could.
Exactly.
Who knew?
Isn't it alarming that we both have mid-engine Porsches and Civics that we're working on, but mine are way older
and worse?
Yeah.
And worse. No one's surprised that they're worse. Not one person, including me, is surprised that they're worse.
Yeah. And yesterday I was done enough. I mean, because it's done, I need to now like paint things. So I went out in the 30-degree weather with 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts and washed the car inside and out. But in order to make that slightly bearable, I actually had previously bought a piece that threads into your faucet, an inside house faucet. And also then the other side of the threads is garden hose. So from our downstairs half bathroom I threaded this piece into that faucet because it's the only faucet downstairs that it would fit in our house of the several that there are, and then ran a garden hose out through the garage out into the driveway so I could wash the car with hot water.
Because
So,
otherwise, yeah, you run the risk of like freezing stuff up.
You
well,
get
it just also
freezed anyway.
miserable to dipping my hands in the bucket of cold water and things as I'm trying to wash this car. So, and I thought the warm water would also help, take away any greases or oils and things that were on it. And just washed it with simple green and that turned out great. Also put in hood pins because the hood release cable was kind of janky. But in the process, I removed the stock hood latch, but I had to take it all apart because I wanted to keep the safety catch that is a part of a stock
Good
hood
plan.
latch, because we've all seen how many people have their hood flip up when they
Gotta
forgot
pin
to
it
put
to
their
win
hood
it.
pins in, right? So, but it took a while to deconstruct the stock latch mechanism to take out the latch part, but keep the safety catch part. But that's all done now. What else did I do on that car? I guess that's it. It takes a while to do these welding things properly, and then also like scraping the underbody stuff where you had welded it because it's all falling off, and painting it so it's not going to rust and things like that. So Civic's in good shape.
Yeah, the time sucker aspects of a project where you're like, this will take me 20 minutes, but it's another half hour of prep and another 45 minutes of additional stuff and another
Yeah.
3 hours of cleanup. And
Well, it depends on how well you want to do it too. Like if you're just kind of getting it done to get it done, you can do it quickly. But if you're trying to do it really well to have a nice end product to have for a while, then it takes longer to do the little details.
yes, and this car has been a long time in construction because yeah, it's only getting done once.
Yeah, pretty much. So now it's cleaned up and in the garage so it can be painted on the inside because I want to paint the cage. And while I'm painting the cage, I'm also going to paint the floor and basically the whole inside of the car white. It's already white, but we'll make it a better, nicer, even or white.
Evener.
And yep. So I'll keep going on that
Plain
because I
white
have to
Honda,
do that.
which is really just a canvas for the themes.
It is. It is absolutely. And then once all that stuff's in, then I can finish putting in like the fire system and put the seat in and all those last things to have this ready-ish.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like it's a fire system away from passing tech right now, but
Well,
I'm just
it's
making it a little bit
seat.
nicer. Yes. Well, the seat will just bolt in with 4 bolts.
Yes.
Already
Well,
done.
but also I know you guys are going to do some track stuff with it, but before it comes to the Lemons world, there's a box that must be checked.
Yes. With another car?
Yes.
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 When
Correct.
B in the C, or sorry, when B in the 3.
3.
Yes. No
Correct.
doubt.
That's like the mantra.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mhm.
all
Yeah,
right.
this is just getting ready to get it ready just to have it. I don't know
Yes.
what we're gonna do with it. I don't know if it'll ever run Lemons because it is too nice the way it is all.
Is
now,
is
but
NASA running the Enduros out there on the East Coast?
I don't even know.
I don't know.
Northeast and Great Lakes. No, sorry, Northeast and Mid Atlantic NASA regions aren't very good. I don't really like them. Great Lakes is wonderful, but Northeast is not so
Oh, I
much. So
wonder
I
if
don't really
all right.
care.
So if you're in the know with the National Auto Sport Association, let us know if they're running any of their Enduros.
I mean, I could check.
I could Google it, but
Yeah.
we haven't.
Yeah.
Time trials, maybe that might be a nice thing for that car because no matter what, with a stock fuel tank, it'll burn through that in very
And
short periods of time.
I know you guys did. It wasn't the festival. You guys did a Grid Life weekend in JMP.
Yeah.
I bet that car would be
Oh,
competitive.
it went there. It went there. We did
Okay,
that.
yeah, because they've got their Honda, and then they've got they do their time trial, but then the Sunday Cup. That's what it is.
It's
We should get
way too
Adam.
fast for Sunday Cup. Way too fast for Sunday Cup. It's a more of a GLTC car, frankly.
Oh well, then they're
actually.
even better.
Yeah.
That's some it's tight racing and it's sprint racing.
Yeah. So I don't know. Who knows what we're going to do with it, but having a good cage and fire system, all those things ready to go.
Always a good thing.
Car is a good
That's
place to start.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure
Excellent.
Grid Life is when we brought it and we realized how terrifying it is to be driving very fast in a tin can with no safety features.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, 125 down the straight at Jersey without any safety equipment. I'm like, I don't know about this.
And I remember having a 240SX that I took to the Grassroots Motorsports Challenge. Same day, I just ripped everything out of it, and I thought, yeah, this is great. I drove that thing on the road. This is fine. And nowadays, yes, I would be like, I don't feel comfortable at all. I would really like some more metal around me. and this is really noisy.
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh, well, look how our risk tolerance changes as you get used to being in fully caged race cars with all the safety gear. That just
yes.
seems like a better idea.
And
Yeah.
you've just seen it go wrong enough times.
Mhm.
And you have a long
This
time
would
to
have been
think
really
think about
painful
it.
without a cage.
Yeah. Oh, you're going down the straight, you're like, wow, if I lost a wheel, we'd be in big trouble. But you have a good couple seconds to think about it. So
Yeah. The 1980s economy car safety standards are totally legit, right? No problem.
Well, but a lot of the stuff that we take out of it when we got these cars were actually part of that. They're like, oh, we're going to put this really thick plastic here so that slices of metal don't come at you. And that, I
Mhm.
mean, I remember we're going way off topic. Welcome to Everyone's Safety. When I was in high
I
school,
love
the
everyone's
CRX,
safety.
yeah, the CRX had just come out, and everyone was like, "Oh, that car will kill you. That car will kill you if you get into an accident." And I remember seeing a CRX, one of the early like 1.5s, and it had been hit and then knocked into a retaining wall, and it bounced down the retaining wall. And obviously, it's a write-off, and it was scary as heck to look at until you poked your head inside, and you noticed that the passenger compartment was actually fine. And this was people were making them, the designers and engineers had already done this, but people were making a mentality shift from a car that sacrifices itself to save you, as opposed to the 72 Oldsmobile, like, whoa, yeah, well, that's a shame. Hose off the dashboard, put it out back out front. We'll sell it. It'll be fine. The
Yeah.
car would live and you would die. So
Yep.
yeah,
Everyone's safety.
everyone's
great.
safety. Yes.
Great.
haven't
Chrissy, do
I
you have
haven't
anything
been-
else to add?
Nah, not much. I've had a library event and I haven't been working on cars. I've been doing a lot of library stuff lately. So, yep, all good.
Okay.
Okay, here's the next one.
Hey, the Lane Museum in Nashville is selling off parts of its collection. Now, there is a link to the article by James Gilboy, but do you know what's even better? A link to the list of cars they are selling, and we have it. And it's over now. The Lane Motorcar Museum has over 150 unique cars and motorcycles. It is the largest European automotive collection in the United States, with vehicles all the way from the early 1900s up to modern day. And it's a huge collection of micro cars, like that little thing that Jeremy Clarkson drove around. They've got one of those. They've got all kinds of the one that James May drove in the last Amazon special. World's largest amphibious vehicle, other military vehicles. And if you've never been there, it's absolutely worth a visit. It's one of my favorite places. I do love going on there. I do have the whole list and I have them on there. I was really disappointed because the 69 Mercedes 280S, which was a really good deal, is already sold.
Yeah, that's the first one I clicked on and see that
I
it's not
know.
there anymore.
Because and the thing
Oh.
about the Lane Motor Museum is it's a living museum. So like they drive all those cars. They just don't park them and like so let them sit there. But some of the more interesting stuff that they have, and I don't want to go through well, you guys, somebody start reading the collection while I find the picture of the one I want.
Well, things that are up, like a 1966 Fiat 600 Multipla. So a little van, a rear engine little van. That's cool. A 61 Lloyd LT-600. Never heard of one of those, have you? It's a
Here, in
weird
fact,
English
that
van.
one I'm prepared to share. So here we go.
Yeah. The 86 Alfa Spider Graduate in good condition.
Yeah, that's a really clean Alpha. You don't
Yep.
find Alphas, and usually they've all rusted away or been abused by now. And here's that because you're showing the Lloyd, and this
Yeah,
is the Lloyd, and
I
here
like
is
the 88
Fiat.
Citroën Tissier car carrier. So this is a
That's the one.
front half of a Citroën CS, or CX, which is a front drive, just car, and they just made a flatbed on the back. It's a ramp truck Citroën. This is how
It
the French
is.
do
Let's pull
towing.
that.
Yeah,
What's
this would actually be
older in it?
the coolest way to roll up to the paddock in
Yep,
anything.
has a 3,600-pound load capacity. It's around 23 feet long.
And
is
you
great.
know
I mean,
that
you're not
car's
going
got
anywhere
great
quickly.
suspension. No,
Oh yeah. But the front, it still has, the luxury leather seats and a manual and of course a one-spoke steering wheel because it's a Citroën CX.
exactly.
It probably has like a 2.1 liter engine. Probably a diesel with a 4,000 RPM redline.
And all of
Oh.
the torque.
It has 552,000 kilometers on it.
Wow.
because it's a European
You know,
diesel.
this is a work truck. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a European work tow truck, 550,000 kilometers.
This is another one that just blew my
That's
mind. And I would,
terrifying.
if I was in a different place with my projects, this would actually think about this one. So it is a Ducheveau based Monoposto race car. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Monoposto.
Monoposto. You show up at the vintage races in this bad boy, and you will be dead last, but first in everyone's hearts,
Oh my
because this
gosh.
thing is just too cool.
It's
I
terrifying.
mean, this weighs less than like the Cessna does. It's also slower.
I think it weighs less than that scooter it's parked next to.
Yeah.
But they had
it's
these, and so they
it's
built it out of the plants.
it's essentially a Formula V concept, but using a Citroën Ducheveau. So it still has the Ducheveau 600cc twin cylinder horizontally opposed engine.
Yeah,
The skinny little wheels and tires, the way the rear trailing arms stick out there, it's hilarious.
because they're just along for the ride.
Yeah.
And then finally, this guy, a 1971 LeGrand Super V. What's unique about this one is not that it's a Super V, but it's the only one LeGrand ever made. So
Okay.
it's the only Super V they ever. So, I found the whole thing interesting. I ended up killing
Yeah.
hours sitting on my couch. Instead of watching TV, I was, not necessarily staring mindlessly into my phone, but I was like, oh, and I did actually start seriously considering how I figured the Mercedes probably would have made the trip. If it was this time next year, I probably would have bought that Mercedes, that 280.
Mhm.
That's it.
Nice.
That'd be a fun little rolling car.
Absolutely. All right. Moving on. Formula One might be in hiatus right now on winter break, but there's still news, as of course there is. Gilles Richards at The Guardian tells us that the very charismatic Gunther Stiener, the Haas team principal, is out. The U.S. announced last Wednesday that his contract was not renewed. He was known for his colorful nature and foul language. His public appearances were known to bring more fans than that of Haas's drivers' public appearances, which I'm not surprised. Now, the 58-year-old graces T-shirts, and last year he published a best-selling autobiography. He's going to be replaced by their former director of engineering, Io Komatsu.
I saw a clip of him, and I think they got it from Netflix when they got their 2 points, and he's Italian, so he's in speaking in his English. He's like, yes, he's very wonderful. I would have fucked everyone in the paddock for another 2 points. And the announcer goes, well, we're going to apologize for that language. And he turns to the guy beside him and goes, what language did I use? Which
I
think he's
that's
German
like
instead
the
of
most
Italian, but
Gunther.
yes.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes.
It's the most Gunther thing ever. There was a whole debate on whether or not means Haas is in trouble, because they may not have renewed his contract just because they can't afford him anymore.
Or he's never actually helped them get to any kind of success, really.
At least not in a long
So-
time.
That's okay.
Is
That's a completely
you know.
different take. Yeah. All right.
So,
Drive to
like, you've
Survive
given
is
him-
going to be boring.
Right. You've given him a lot of time, but he's never really, they've not gone anywhere. Their one season, like years ago, they came in 5th, and isn't that amazing? And then nothing since then. It's usually DFL, especially now that like Williams is starting to get their act together.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
He was so good on Drive to Survive. There's like whole episodes that were basically around him. So it's gonna be
Because when they started it, no one really cared to talk to them. Like they didn't actually talk to anyone from Mercedes or Ferrari or Red Bull for the first
Right.
couple seasons. It was all just Haas and AlphaTauri and McLaren and Williams. So
Well, because how many documentaries of, it's the same thing, even at Lemons, oh, great. Another documentary. Whatever.
yeah, exactly.
We're tired of talking to you people until you prove that you're interesting, and Drive to Survive did.
Yep.
okay. Last year was a record year for car sales. Everything from electric to the new kid on the block and perennial favorites like pickup trucks saw gains. It wasn't all rosy for all models, though. From some of the look of the sales numbers, there are cars that look to either be on their deathbeds or about to be. Lawrence Hodge at Jalopnik gives us a following list of cars that were the lowest selling models at their respective automakers. Some of the models you'll notice are already dead and gone, and sales reflect the few stragglers left at dealers. This is not the complete list, but ones that I found interesting. Acura ILX was killed off a couple years ago when it was replaced by the Integra, but Acura managed to sell 5 into 2023.
That is such a Honda thing. Oh, we haven't made this car, but we're still selling them because we're just that good.
No, they're still just the dealers who had them were just like, oh, this stupid car is still here. And finally get
Right.
someone who's interested in it. They're like giving it away.
Take
practically.
2. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, like
The,
the person that sold it is like got a instead of steak knives as a bonus because they got rid of that car. Right?
Attention to the dealership. Steve just sold the ILX. Well done.
Yeah,
Yay!
exactly.
All right, the Alfa Romeo Julia, whatever. You could put the whole Alfa brand on this list. Just under 11,000 were sold in the whole year, while technically the worst seller was the Tantale. Tonale, thank you. It sold just over 2,000. It gets a pass since this is an all-new model. Aside from that, the Julia was the worst selling Alfa in 2023 with just 30,000.
Yeah. I think everyone that wanted a Julia and will put up with Julia stuff, like our friend Eric and our friend Tom.
Eric doesn't have an Alpha.
Eric Peterson.
Oh, other Eric. Yes.
Yeah,
that
Dead
Eric.
Pedal. You know, he's already got a thing for expensive Italian cars.
Yes.
And they already own one. Like they
Yep.
they have 100% market saturation of everyone that will put up with an Alpha owns one already.
Pretty much.
Everyone else bought a Mercedes.
Yep.
Pretty much. All right. The R8 is out. The BMW X2, there was only 15 sold. The Cadillac CT4 and Lyriq EV.
That is weird that the Lyriq, they were
Yeah.
And the
pushing that one
CT4
hard.
is good too.
Yeah.
Well, how many? We don't know how many they sold. You don't have
You
that
could-
listed here.
It didn't always say.
Oh, okay.
But I like the low numbers, so that's why I left them in. The Chevy low cab forward, had a badge job of the Isuzu NPR. Just took this from the article. The Silverado heavy duty chassis cab, and the Camaro, all low on the list.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
but-
it's the last year for the Camaro. So I guess if
Yep.
it wasn't a collector model, Hertz has already got their fleet full up.
Right?
Yeah.
They don't want any more.
Well, it's if you don't get the high performance model, it's a useless car. You can't fit a regular suitcase. The opening for a Camaro trunk is smaller than the opening of my Miata's trunk. It's a decent sized trunk, but it's a portal to get in there.
car.
Yeah,
Like
it's
fairly big.
It is. And the back seats, I couldn't even get my suitcase in the back seat of the Camaro. I had to recline the front seat and put the rolling duffel bag. It wouldn't fit in the trunk, and I had to put it in the front seat.
It's bad if you had a
How do you really feel?
passenger. Yeah, right.
Well,
This is why they didn't sell.
No, it isn't. And if you don't have the V8, because the car was designed around that V8, and with that V8, it's phenomenal. But without it, even the Turbo 4, just the weight is off, and the car just marshmallows down the highway, and it drones. If you're
Wow.
not getting the high performance model, so bad.
This is funny. I had no idea you were so passionate about this.
I wasn't until I drove one from Atlanta to Carolina. It was yeah.
The Dodge Viper, there were only 2 sold, followed by the Dart, where 3 were sold, Caravan 27, and Journey 36.
I mean, they haven't made any of those in years, like years and years.
The Dart is just the Dart is it's a neon without any personality.
Well, so it's a Fiat underneath too, which makes it even worse.
So you're getting Dodge small car personality with Italian reliability.
Yeah.
And
No good.
last on the list that I pulled from was Honda. Their lowest selling vehicle was the Passport with 43,000 sold.
And someone probably got fired over that. You only sold 43,000 passports. You're on your way out.
Yeah. I want to bring up that the Fiat's entire sales for 2023 for the whole brand in the US is 605 for all Fiats.
Aren't there only
Yes.
two? There's only two kinds, though, right?
So
Aren't there
there's
two
only a
cars?
couple, but for example, they sold 16 Fiat 500s. 16.
Yeah.
They sold 7 500Ls, which is the bigger one, and the Fiat 124 Spider, which is a Miata with a much worse Fiat engine, they sold 28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
They
the
win.
the Fiat Spider isn't a bad car. The worst thing about the Fiat Spider is the Indy Miata. Because you have the 1.6 turbo with the old transmission, or you get a 2-liter normally aspirated that makes more power and is Mazda reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for note, the last Dodge Dart was made in 2017.
Oh.
So
I'm
Hopefully you got that for
I
surprised.
think.
free.
Yeah, I'm surprised we have not seen 500s showing up in Lemons yet. Because I see them here and they are being given away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially
And darts,
if
too.
somebody bought them off of a buy here pay here lot, so they have title issues.
Yeah. Oh, there'll be a time. Don't worry. And no one will have any doubt. Or they'll just go the way like the Caliber. They were everywhere and then they were gone.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
couldn't even get them in Lemons because they're just gone.
No, because
Bad.
people, it's like the Ultima. No one who likes cars wants one.
That's true.
Although our friend Jim had his Abarth 500, he loved that one, and Dave on the Apex Adjacent podcast autocrosses his Abarth 500 and
Well, those I think
rants about it.
those can be a lot of fun supposedly, but that's not enough to keep the brand alive, unfortunately.
No, I guess not. Performance models never are. That was I'm glad you linked that. I had another way more boring article to put in there about how the National Highway Safety wants states to stop making smart aleck signs that like use your turn signal, in Boston.
Yes.
That was even on NPR this morning, but your article, I could go through it just the scale of car companies that they don't sell a 14th of what the lowest seller of Honda was for their entire line of cars. It's it's mind-boggling.
Okay. Talk about something else that's mind-boggling. I don't know. If it's mind-boggling. But racing junk never ceases to amaze me. If I were left to my own devices and not nobody to control me, I might get this fancy commuter car shipped to me because I won it. 12.5 in Bakersfield, California in 1980, as rare as they come. A commuter vehicle, California street legal, headlights. It features headlights and turn signals and a horn. Windshield wiper, 1, I think. 8 new Duracell batteries and a 40-mile-an-hour top speed.
What's the
those
range
bumpers
on
are
this?
amazing.
Yeah, I think they had to do it to meet the crash standards of the
I'm
day.
sure they're diving boards basically.
They are.
I think this was the city car. I thought this was. Now I guess this is a different version. That's the commuter car.
The commuter car.
Like an upgrade. The commuter.
It's so
this thing is a nice piece of history, and an electric car from 1980 that'll go 12 miles and 40 miles an hour. Yeah.
Up to
Slightly
40
faster than
40 miles an hour and a 40-mile range.
Yeah.
According to the little ad placed on this very well documented 14 pictures car at it. Yeah,
Look at that stripe too.
That's how you know it's sporty.
I know.
Yes. Oh wow.
What
it
terrible,
reminds me of a
car.
Yes, it reminds me of a bad Dennis Leary joke, but he talks about, that car was made in the middle of the sexual revolution. And if you had it, I guarantee you weren't taking part in that revolution because no one's going home in that car.
I think it's fun.
Oh, it is. It's absolutely hilarious now. But like, if you imagine rolling into that one new and parking it next to the 76 Cutlass personal luxury coupe that's, littering your parking lot at work.
Nope.
put like 3 of them next to each other. I think the bumpers were just so it stuck out far enough. People didn't try and park on top of it.
Oh well.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's
There's no races. So
Nope.
moving on.
All
Yeah,
right.
let's listen for feedback.
2 weeks, 2 weeks. Barber. Woohoo.
Yup. Okay, listener feedback time. So, in response to our burnout episode on Facebook, Greg O had a whole lot to say about it. I find the best prevention for burnout is a burnout, and then put a picture of a car doing a burnout. Great
his
episode.
car. His car doing a burnout.
Is that his car?
That's
Yes.
an early, very early Fox body notchback. I'm gonna say that's like an 1880 by the looks of it.
It's a 4i, and it looks like
Yeah.
he put the plexiglass covers on it probably to help it with there. It's if you guys want to see it, you're watching this on you're not watching this on YouTube, but it's cool looking car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he posted it on our Facebook.
Yep, that's where I got it from. Okay, has a whole lot more to say. Great episode. In all seriousness, it took me a lifetime to learn how to self-regulate in hopes of preventing burnout. Still not proficient, but now at least I can sense the impending collapse and take steps to head it off. This picture represents the end of a 3-month thrash to finish this and sort this car for Muscle Mustangs and Fast Fords magazine shoot in 2006. I was much younger. During those 3 months, I was working solo and only sleeping about 4 to 5 hours a night. This was also the last time the car was on a legit drag strip, making this picture the end of the drag racing for me. After 3 months of hard work, I didn't enjoy a single second of that day. This picture is burnout, both literally and figuratively.
That hits me right in the feels, man. Been
Yep.
there.
Albert W says he knows this feeling all too well.
Yeah, we struck a chord with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I posted a smart ass post that I'd stolen from my Oklahoma friends who probably stole it from someplace else about the Nissan Skyline. It's finally 2024. You can buy a Nissan Skyline like you've always wanted when you were playing Gran Turismo, except they're all $130,000 and you're never going to have one. To wit, DJ914 said there is too much money in the hands of the top 2% to ever compete as those people drive prices to crazy land.
And our AI image of Olympic swimmers at the DQ caused some introspection. Team Punch Raf said, "I can't stop focusing on the dairy ween."
Yep. Steph said, "Is Ween like Weeno Clinic, like the one for dongs that sponsored McLaren's back in the day? If so, that's fitting."
I'm glad everybody liked it.
Yes.
Yeah, those things can be fun.
Yeah,
no doubt.
And the AI image that you generated up for me of the dumpster fires, the train load of dumpsters on fire crashing is now like becoming our symbol at work. It's great. So
good. I'm glad.
So yes, main topic time. And you were just touching on this. It's not quite racing season. If you're going to Barber, it's coming up in a few weeks, but for a lot of people, well, you guys, your first race is April.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got a ways. It's winter. It's
the
off
Midwest
season.
just got the crap kicked out of it twice. So you're all sitting in there like I've got friends in Wisconsin and Idaho that are under 12 to 14 inches of snow. It was awful. This morning I woke up to like a foot of sunshine. So I don't know what we're going to do about that.
I don't know, but it's still pretty cold there. You said that you had.
Well, last week it's 50 now.
Okay. I mean, crazy cold here this week, like under 20. So
oof, no, thank you. Everybody stay warm. I feel bad. That's awful.
So this is a good time to start like looking at some things in your race car that you may not have been looking at before, because we're going to focus on roll cage stuff. These are cage upgrades you can do this off season. Because a lot of times the cage is done. You're like, okay, it's going to pass tech done. The box is checked. I'm not thinking about this anymore because, then the car is broken and you're doing an engine swap and something else. There's always something else to look at. But that
built or you built yourself.
Your mic went wonky.
Sorry. Let's see if it comes back. It will usually. I hate to change the port.
We just talked about how we don't have the tube of mockery anymore.
Yeah, I think it's still there.
Yeah, I still have it.
Yeah,
well, we can't go on like this. So
no,
No.
I know. It fixes itself by now.
I know. The brought to you by Honda tube of mockery.
Yeah, it's been a
Hey.
while. And
Yeah.
if it weren't across the room, he could use it. But he doesn't have to because the microphone's not working.
Yep.
Still.
Okay. This is why we don't edit, people. You get raw everyone racers. This is just what we do. And it has nothing to do with me being too lazy and us not wanting to re-record this. It's because we're trying to be honest.
And we're a little lazy.
We're trying. We're
Unplug, replug?
We're a little lazy.
That's what I'm doing.
So
Come
I'm up
on.
this early because the new Blake Shelton establishment here in Las Vegas, Old Red, is opening. So Vicky and I will be departing right after this and heading down there to see their soft opening.
Oh,
Because
I
that was
thought you
his
had
like
to
first
work.
his first big song. I do have to go to work. I have to go to work later, and I'll be at work until this evening because that's just for the next 2 weeks. That's my schedule.
Ew.
Yeah.
That's not fun at all.
I starting off my Monday talking to my friends. That's
that's great too.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a proper
Don't expect
bonus.
this morning thing.
What the worst part is I have to go to work on a holiday where everyone else is off today.
Right.
So
that's
yeah.
literally why we're doing this, because we are available. Okay, we've killed enough time. Come on.
Otherwise, we're just doing it with the tube of mockery. The hell with it.
Fine.
No, or we can stop, but either way.
Okay.
Ugh.
I'm going to let's see if I can just hit pause. And I actually will edit this because we've got time. All right. So pause.
Great.
All right, so it's the wintertime. You've got time to work on your cage because once you have had that box checked initially, when you built your car, you said, all right, cage done. It's going to pass tech. I read that. I read the rules. I looked at that nice little drawing diagram Lemons puts together. I'm going to pass tech. Okay. And then you moved on because you had lots of other things to do because you broke the engine and the suspension and the transmission and you had a good theme and, your trailer broke and whatever. And then you just forgot about the cage because it was good enough. And there are a lot of things you can do to make your cage better than good enough. And now that it's been a couple of years, you might want to take advantage and do some of those to improve your cage because that is not only key to a good safe car, but it can also help with performance a bit because a lot of these janky old cars, their chassis are not really all that stiff anymore. And by having it tied into the cage well, that's also going to help with performance. So we're going to talk
driver fatigue.
That all the above. And there's a lot of things that might be annoying about your old cage, like the fact that the door bars are terrible and they're in their way all the time. Or you look at other people's cages and you go, oh, that looks pretty nice. Oh, that's a nice cage. And it was way better than mine. And so we're not talking about redoing a cage. Like if you've got a cage that was done by someone who didn't do a very good job and you can fit your arm around the whole cage, well, that's a different problem. We're going to talk about things that you can do even without a bender for the most part to improve your cage. So we're going to talk about additions to the cage, improvements to the cage in general, and just some maintenance that you can do just things you might forget about otherwise.
Okay.
So
that's what we talked about earlier. What you working
right.
on? Yes, that's what you.
So let's talk about additions, things you can add on to your cage that might make it better. So if you have trouble with clearing the helmet clearance rule for some people, especially for height, where I only send this driver out through tech because I want to make sure that no one can see who, that Steve over there doesn't really fit in the cage real well. Like I know this thing happens, but
I'll take the malfeasance out of it. Like, oh, you built this car. We've been running it for 2 years. And, now Jason's on our team and, Jason's a lot of torso. And he gets a very rare black flag. And all of a sudden, one of the judges sends me back because he can't drive anymore. The immediate solution is always pull the cushion out from the seat because that gives you a couple of inches. But I've had to kick people out of the car because they're breaking the halo rule. And I hate it.
Their helmet sticks up above the cage and you can see it sometimes and it's sad. So
here's there was a car that Mental couldn't get in, the one that you went in backwards. Remember you tried to get in backwards?
The RX-7 was with the first seat edition. It wasn't good for either Mental or I, actually.
No, because we had to between the halo seat and the bar, you literally had to wedge your helmet in, and you weren't moving it. It was not gonna.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you got
Yeah,
in
that
and
That
we
was
got out.
unsafe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was unsafe. So here's a way to add a bar to give you more head clearance. And if you put in a center bar in your halo, so this will go from basically imagine a bar that is um, in line with the center line of the car, but then goes up from the main hoop and then goes down to catch the forward halo or the crossbar in the front, the header bar. So yes, there is a bend to this. It's not much of a bend. Find someone with a if you know anybody with a bender, they can make one of these in about 10 minutes. Just get the rough bends in it for you so that you can finish it up later. And that will give you a nice extra bit of helmet clearance because you want to imagine your roll cage for helmet clearance like someone takes a sheet or a tarp and drapes it over it and tightens it up. Are you far enough away from that sheet or tarp, wherever it is? So by adding this bar in the middle, that's like it's like the peak of the tent to help give you that extra clearance. So that's a nice thing to be able to do. Next up, how about some footwell intrusion bars? Because your cage, probably the forward bars come down and they come down to a spot probably around mid shin, maybe even back toward your knee. And in front of that is just the car, whatever the crash structure was on your car. So your 1965 Humber Super Snipe may not have the crash standards that you would like it to have, or the 1993 Honda Civic may not be as good as what you'd like it to be for the kind of speeds that we're doing. So adding a footwell intrusion bar will help give you a little more structure to protect your feet in case you get a good front offset hit, to keep the essentially the wheel and suspension and things from coming into the area where your feet are. This is a pretty simple bar to make. So from your roll cage down tube, you just need a straight bar that goes straight forward from there to a good flat surface on the, essentially fender well or firewall of your car with a spreader plate there. And it's really a simple bar to make. Clean up a spot to weld the spreader plate. That's actually going to be the hardest part, is getting the spreader plate in there and welded. You're gonna have to lie under the dash and weld the plate.
Lotus position.
Yep, I just did this
It's the
2 days ago.
worst.
Yep, Saturday morning I was welding in the lotus position to get this plate in.
Do yourself a favor, take the seat out. I know it's a pain in
Yes,
the butt,
yes.
but just
Oh,
take
yes,
the seat
absolutely.
out.
All day.
Trust us on that one.
Absolutely. If your seat can't come out with 4 bolts and something's wrong, so maybe you can reconsider your seat mount. Maybe that's
And
another thing you
another
could do.
good modification to make in the off season.
Yeah, actually
Yeah,
reconsider. Make sure
yeah.
your seat mount is good, because a lot of seat mounts were done just good enough to get it to pass tack. But anyway, so weld the spreader plate to the car, and then just make a simple bar with a notch on one end and a straight cut on the other to fit whatever the curvature is of your spreader plate. Just weld it in on both sides. It's really simple to do, doesn't take very long, and adds some nice protection for your feet in the event of a crash. Another thing that I got this idea from Towley. Towley's cage was done by a guy who was a metal worker, and he did some really incredibly high quality work on that cage. And then Bruce and Greg, Darren got hold of it, But anyway, this guy put in jacking points tied into the roll cage, because normally you use a stock jacking points. That's great. You jack the car up, but it's front or rear and it doesn't lift it. It's not quite straight as it lifts it up. And then you don't have the benefit of using the stock points to put jack stands on. So Towley has these just a few inches of bar straight down from the sill bar on the roll cage to give a nice jacking point spot that you can use to lift the whole side of the car up and leave the stock points free for jack stands. So give those a try. I just put them into yesterday. They're really easy to do, actually. You get a measurement so that the bar sticks just below the floor and the sill of the car, but not too much, because if it's too much, now you're going to catch it on things, and that's going to be bad.
Like your trailer.
Right. So just enough below. And I put a square washer, thick square washer on the bottom of ours to give it a nice spot for the jack to land on that. But
and the upside of that too is you can mark them on the exterior of the car. Now, normally when you're doing your Friday night, Saturday night, okay, jack the car up, check everything out. But sometimes you are doing a expedient repair of a tire or something that has come loose, and having a solid spot where you're not going to bend the frame or tweak anything or break any stuff, and you know it's not going to fall off the jack. This is a massive time saver because you've got those little arrows right there. And if everyone on the team knows that it extends from the roll cage, they shove the jack under there, 3 jacks, it's up. They're already pulling the wheel off, and then you can actually, this can save a race very, very quickly.
And saves confusion. So if you've got like this it happens, it's one of those things like Chris knows, but then if somebody just coming in with the jack, it's one less.
Where am I supposed to jack this? Where does it go?
Oh, that's not the right place. Oh no. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna fall off. Everybody back up.
Oh.
Yeah. Clang.
Oh no, it's a rusty old Honda. The rear jack points are all crap. You can't use any of them. Oh, I didn't know that. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this, I think it's a neat little idea, and it took very little time to do. It's essentially one notch and one weld, and one hole with a hole saw through the floor to get it in the right spot, and that's it. It's really easy and makes a nice addition.
Very much.
Now, if you really want to be fancy, and I'm not
like
even going to do
fancy.
this is a nice performance improvement you can add to your car, and it'll add to your safety as well. You can extend your roll cage with a single bar from your down tubes through your firewall up to your front strut towers. So this will definitely add some nice rigidity to your chassis. It's a lot of work though. Depends on how much of a dash you have left and how your angles are in your cage. Like our cars, I would have to put holes through so many different things. It wouldn't even be funny to get that bar up to the strut towers. But if you can, it's just like making the footwell intrusion bars. Get a straight bar that goes from your down tube through the firewall to a backing plate that's welded to the side of your strut tower. That really makes a nice improvement in your chassis rigidity, without a doubt. And last thing for additions,
Very fancy.
are there any spots where you could add additional attachment points between the cage and the body? Maybe your chassis is really wearing out, and you can, for example, our first Civic Wago van, when we'd go through the carousel at Summit Point, I could hear the body flex and hit the roll cage as I was going through there because of the G forces we were generating in that corner. So I welded up some little tabs to go from the cage to the car, and you know what? It held that thing together, which it needed because it was just rust holding hands as a 250,000-mile Japanese car from Massachusetts. But some of our other cars, like the Civic and the Mazda, the cage is so close to the chassis, it's touching in a number of spots. So in that case, just clean up the metal on both sides and just weld it right to it. Now, some sanctioned bodies have limits on the number of attachment points your car can have. Our audience is primarily not running with those sanctioning bodies, so just weld it up wherever it touches and see what you can do. But if it is in your rule book, though, just check your rule book for how many attachment points you're allowed to have.
That, and I think usually if it's between the axles, you get as long as it's not like super stupid, you can get away with quite a few. The whole point of the limit of attachment points is to try to essentially avoid things becoming tube frame in the name of, oh, it's all just the roll cage, it's safety, it's totally fine, when it's really a tube frame car. Yeah, you don't want the roll cage to become a weapon where your car is punching through somebody else's car. It took me a little doing here, and I apologize for sending us backwards, but I want to show your point about the halo bar. So this is my original spec Pinata that we built in Oklahoma.
I love the 3-spoke wheels. Those are my favorite.
We actually we had those around the shop, and we brought them on purpose because it was just so hilarious. But this was the Miata cage kit, and it passed tech. And then, because that's what life does, we added a driver who had more torso, and we failed the broomstick test. And this is on an open top car. So what we had to do is build these 2 risers in addition to the center bar coming across there like that. But that did increase our ability to put taller drivers in there. And that was done old because we didn't have a tubing bender. It was done old school with a very long stick. We kind of knew where the bends were, and using a bit of like the old tubing crusher you get from Harbor Freight. But because
Wow.
it was not that dramatic of an angle, you could get away with it, and that's how we made those riser bars and kept that car legal for another couple of years. So,
Excellent.
if I can get to my
Yeah.
stop share on that one, yeah.
Good. All right. So those are some additions. So let's talk about some other improvements you can make, because a lot of times these cages are made with, let's get it. We've only got a weekend to do it, or 2 weekends to do it. Like get it done enough. And you might have missed some little details that can make your cage just a better, stronger, nicer place to be. Once mental stop
There we
sharing,
go. Sorry,
especially.
yeah.
There you go. Good. No worries. First thing is gussets. Gussets are extra metal that's added into the corners of any joint to add strength to that part. And a lot of times people just don't do these because, well, it takes extra time and effort to do, and you just want to get the thing done. Well, you can easily go back and add gussets to help strengthen the joints, and do it at some of the important joints, like anything around the halo, between the halo and the crossbar, halo on the diagonal, halo to the backstays or the forward bar. Almost any joint can have a gusset put in, and it can be as simple as just a little triangle of metal, ideally around the same thickness of metal as what is in your roll cage, and just weld it in. You're probably going to have to, when you make the triangle, you're probably going to have to grind away the top of the pyramid to fit, because your current weld bead would take up that room. But then just clean it up, put it in that angle, weld up all the sides of it, and there, right there, you have a stronger joint.
These are really, you don't even have to make these. I just showed one. Here is a set of them from Jegs, and yeah, they're $13 a piece.
They're like $1 a piece, essentially.
Yeah,
and they're 1/8 thick, and they're already, these are very nice. They're already curved. Those are wonderful. I end up making ours out of, at the local metal shop that we have, Fazio's in New Jersey. They always have this like bulk room of things, and one of them, they have these square washers with a hole in them, but they have rounded corners. And I just buy a bunch of those because they're great for backing plates for things. And if you cut them diagonally, cut them diagonally, great. You have a wonderful gusset.
Mhm.
Or if I'm cutting plate for other reasons and I end up with a triangle, I cut that off and I save it for later for use for things just like this. The other kind of gussets you can make are taco gussets. These are not only delicious, but they're strong. And the point of a taco gusset is it's a piece of sheet metal that's much thinner than the material the cage is, because it's much bigger. You don't need it to be the same thickness. And it wraps all the way around the joint and has essentially a much larger surface area where it's touching the joint. And once you've made it and take it off, it looks like a taco. So now Mental's showing a nice picture of one and some door bars there. But these can be done in not just the door bars, but for example, on your forward down bar, where it makes the very severe bend as it's toward the base of the windshield. That's a pretty rough bend. And if the car were to go over, that's going to be a spot that might flex. That's why they have FIA bars that go straight from your forward base plate up to your halo bar. That's why rally cars have those, because that's a point where it might be weak. But instead of doing that, sure, you could add an FIA bar there. Great. That's another nice addition you could add for good rollover protection. But you could also just add some gussets to this joint, and making a taco gusset to fit that spot will add a lot of strength to it. And if you want to go really fancy, you can drill some holes in it and then get a dimple die to make those holes flex. And so they're not just in one plane, because when you've add the extra depth to it, it actually makes it an even stronger piece from there and takes a little bit of weight out of it. So, but the way to make a taco gusset is start with paper. I actually like the cardboard that is like a cereal box, or a 12-pack of beer, or a 12-pack of Diet Coke, whatever.
Cardboard aided design, as Chrissy,
sure, but
Chrissy patented that phrase. You got to pay her a quarter every time we say it.
Yep. Not the corrugated cardboard, but the flat stuff. And you just kind of hold it up on what you want and draw approximate lines with a Sharpie and cut, and then keep going and working that cardboard until it is exactly right. because it's a whole lot easier to take little bits off a cardboard and adjust it than to do it on steel. So, and when it's flat, it's from the outside edges, it's just a triangle, essentially, gradually increasing in shape. And then as it gets to the middle, there's a cutout that goes down into it. That's approximately the radius of the bar that you're using. And cut that, or get it in paper, wrap it around, get it to be just right, transfer it to metal, cut it into metal, and then bend it over the bar itself at the spot where the notches are. And you up with this nice taco, clamp the taco in place, and then tack weld it and then finish weld it. And it adds a really nice, strong joint.
Great.
Yep.
And delicious.
And
They are.
delicious.
And
Who
safe.
doesn't like tacos?
Right?
Communists? I don't know.
Exactly.
Well,
People,
well.
yeah, people who hate freedom, clearly.
Exactly. Okay. Next up, how about some cross braces? There's probably a place you can add some cross braces to your cage to make it a little safer. For example, you could put it in almost any plane, you can add a cross brace.
A
Like from
Cessna, a Piper.
right. Exactly. Like for example, in your backstays, you probably just have two backstays, one going down straight on each side. Maybe you add a diagonal one that goes from above the driver's head to the right rear strut tower brace. That's going to add some good safety there. Anything you can triangulate the bars to end above the driver's head. You are just helping that make sure that that driver is going to be safe in any crash. Really, if you want to know about extra bars to add, just look at rally cars. Rally cars are full of them. See now, Mental, this one you pulled up, the bar ends above the passenger's head, which doesn't make any sense to me. If you're going to do one of these bars, make it end above the driver's head, because that's who you're trying to protect. Like, sure, this adds a little, keeps the cage from bending in certain other ways, but why not just do it toward the driver? That's why the diagonal bar in most main hoops ends on the driver's side, to protect the driver. Who knew?
I am Googling like frantically as you speak, and this all makes complete sense. And this is here maybe
You
this
can
is
other things you can add are things like a brace across between the backstays to act like a strut tower brace between your two strut towers. Depends on how close it gets, but that's a nice brace you can add. And that's an X brace on a Miata. That's a nice, totally a great addition to the back. You don't have to do just one direction. You can do it both directions. So all these nice things add extra strength to there. Now here's another one. So this is a little complicated here. And this is going to require a bender, but find a friend with a bender, bring them some beer and some food and spend a day with them, have a nice time. Those straight door bars that you have, because that's the best you could do at the time. And they annoy you every time you get in and out of the car, and they annoy you about
Mental was doing
half
earlier
an hour
with your,
into your shift.
with your arm, and you're like,
Yeah,
is
'cause
it
it's
over
always
here?
catching
Is it
your
over
arm, yeah.
here? Is it like, where do I go? And
Half of it, it's into your shift. It's there. You can't fit your arm in it. It's the wrong spot. It's terrible. It's annoying, but that's what you have. Well, you know what? You don't have to do that. Put some bent door bars in there. You can do these NASCAR style where they come all straight out and run along and then cut back in. You can do them more rally style where it's just, or which is what we usually do in our cars. It's where it's one bend in the middle and there's two bars that essentially create an X by touching in the middle of their bends, and you weld those bars together and taco gusset those. Mental showing a NASCAR bar style there too. There's just normal X bars with a bend in it that cut into each other. Great. Any of those are so much better than a straight bar for driver comfort.
So much more work though.
They are, but that's why
So
people didn't do
much.
them the first
I
time. It's
know.
because they were trying to get their cage done. Like, well, I can just put the straight bar with two verticals and that's it. And that's done. Great. Check the box. Cage car's going to pass tech.
It's
But-
also
And
a
what
commitment.
you don't realize until you've gone back the other way, you don't realize how much time this saves you in the realm of getting in and out of the car. And this is going to be a very busy picture. It's terrible, but this one right here, the out of this spec E46 cage kit, that's a nice, comfortable, because as you're getting in the car, you can put your feet down, put your butt on the stuck out bar, and then climb into the car and get belted in.
Now,
And
this car has a
an-
lot of nice pieces. Let's
Yeah.
talk about some of those. So those are great things to see here.
Sure.
So we're going to go from the bottom up. So from the sill bar, it's got then a brace up from the sill bar to the X bars. And this is the bar style that I was talking about that we put on our cars, where it's two bars. They each have a single bend in them. Those bends meet in the middle, and then you taco gusset weld around that to make that a good strong bend. So that's great. If you go to the left of there, you see this has an FIA bar that goes from the joint on the bottom left on the header bar all the way up to the top corner of the windshield to give that strength. So that's a great one. If you look down on the bottom left all the way, you can see the footwell intrusion bar that goes from that's the same central node on the forward bar straight forward. Right. Exactly. This also has some nice gusseting in place, like in the corners of the header bar to the down tubes. Got some roll cage tubing as gussets, and you don't have to use the same size and material for gussets as you do for the critical strength bars. You can go a little smaller or thinner on some of those. That's still okay. So actually, and this has jack points too. That's
sorry.
also you could. I'll steal it. It's fine. You could see it on the passenger side one going straight down from there. So that was a really
real
nice.
Quick, we'll go. Yeah. All right. Oh yes, perfect. Yes.
Yeah, so that was a really nice looking cage kit that they've sent here. That's got a lot of extra bars that are going to help out in adding strength and durability to this cage. So good one. But yeah, anytime I've driven a car with straight door bars after being so used to not having them, I say this is just terrible.
It is.
It's in your way.
It's like driving without a cool shirt. You're like, why am I doing this? This sucks.
Yeah. And it's less safe too. Like if you get hit in the side, there's no room for that to move. It's going to come into you if it bends at all. And that means you're going to hit the bars with your body, and means you're probably going to hit whatever you're hitting with your body.
Or
where if
your arm is forced to be like could be
Yeah.
on or outside the cage.
Yep.
If it's already that uncomfortable. If it's that close to you,
Oof.
then you could have it as if you're leaning on it and somebody hits you. I mean, hopefully you move your arm before you get hit, but that could be a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the energy absorption, you lose all of that too. Yeah.
Yep.
But you also
And
with
with-
those doors, door bars, you're gonna have to commit to a window strategy because you're gonna have to gut the doors. So you have
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
Well, even
gut the doors to make sure you can
you
get
can
the cage
you
in.
can usually get away with if you can't gut your doors for whatever reason, there's usually some room between where a straight bar would be
Yeah.
and pushing it
A
out
bend out.
far enough till it touches whatever door structure you have. Now,
Mhm.
in general, it's not great to race with glass in the car because if that breaks, now it's
agreed,
just
agreed.
everywhere. Like that's a bad idea. You should have that sealed up.
But if
Never
you
have
wanna
the
run
windows
windows,
removed. Right.
if you
And
want to
we
run
used to-
windows in life,
Yeah.
outside of
Yeah, we
racing.
just used to have ours removable so that when we were not racing, we would have we had a stick that was broken in the middle and taped so that it would curve, and that would fit in a certain way around the cage and hold the window up.
Right.
Which
It worked.
and that wasn't for driving. You guys did that
Mm.
because I
Yes,
remember
yes,
it was
right, correct,
it was a very
storage.
distinct procedure of okay, you have to open the door, put the window in, put the
Yeah.
stick in a very certain way, and then close it gently so that the glass by no means
Yeah.
got bit by the
Yes.
And that was
cage.
not necessarily a good solution, but it was one that worked. Like if I were to redo that today, I would have a fabric strap that was in the door that would pull up through it and then snap in place to hold that window up, like
That's
a
an
little piece of
interesting
seatbelt.
concept.
Well, and that underscores this whole live and learn. The first roll cage I ever installed, it was a kit, and it was a good kit, and it was a good cage. It wasn't a great cage. And so you've been doing this for a while, or you've done this for a season, and you're starting to recognize where you can make some improvements. We keep saying this: make well-informed bad decisions. Learn from our mistakes, not from us. So if you've had a car that you've been racing a couple of years, certainly you've heard some complaints, or you've looked at other cars and you're like, I could do this. Just, oh God, when? Now. This is the perfect time of year to do it.
Yeah, there's nothing going on right now. Do that. And welding warms up your garage.
It totally
you're welding.
does.
Yeah. So this is the best time of year to do it, not in the summertime. Enjoy that warmth.
Yeah.
And last on improvements is there's probably some bar in your cage that, let's just say, it just isn't right. Like it was okay at the time, but maybe that header bar, now you realize, yeah, that's a little too close. Like I never really liked how close that is to me, or just the bend is off, or that's not my best weld on the end of that tube. I really never liked that. now's the time to just replace that thing that's just not right and make it right. Because if you're going to be putting effort in the car, it's going to keep going. Make that cage as good as it can be.
Mhm.
Good.
And last is just some maintenance. Who knew roll cages required maintenance? Things like touch up the paint, because I'm sure it's gotten beat up, or maybe you never painted it in the
I was
first
gonna say,
place.
just start for the paint in the first place.
Yeah, great. Put some Pour 15 on it to cover up the rust and have it all encapsulated, and then put some real top coat on top of Pour 15, because Pour 15 isn't designed to be a top coat, or any of those good solid rust encapsulating paints. Those are the way to go if it's already a rusty surface. But maybe just touch it up because it's gotten worn out from taking things in and out of the car and drivers getting in and out, the seat coming in and out over the years. Just give it a touch up. Keep that metal in good condition. How is your roll cage padding? I bet it's not great.
I bet it's
'Cause-
old.
Yeah.
I bet it's
You
a
put it
pool
on-
noodle in a lot of places.
Right. Exactly. A lot of places it's that pool noodle stuff that is, you say, oh, that's fine now. But then imagine that you get hit and now they have 40 or something, your body going to it at 40 Gs. That's going to go right through it. And so it might as well not even be there. That's why the SFI padding, you look at it and say, well, that's so hard. I don't want to hit that. Well, it's the same concept that we talked about earlier of it has to give enough to absorb the impact. And if you are in a higher G crash and you hit that with a body part, sure, it's hard now, but with enough G-force, it's going to deform somewhat. And you don't want it to deform completely because then you're just hitting the bar. If it deforms completely, you might as well not have it, really. But if it deforms partially, that is slowing you down and doing what it's supposed to do. So now's a good time to replace that pool noodle with actual SFI padding.
And I'll throw this out there too. What a lot of people don't realize with the pool noodle is it's not only is it not fire resistant, it's actually kind of flammable and will melt.
It's a good point too. Yeah.
And if it's over you, anywhere on you, should you find yourself, God forbid, in a fire situation, as it melts, it's going to start dripping onto you. And hot, melty plastic is going to burn through your fire suit.
That's a great point.
And
Yeah.
it's going to
Huh.
sit there and be hot on your skin. So it's a thing. Now, a lot of most of your tech agencies, they've kind of put that onus on the drivers. If they see it, they'll reject it. So the pool noodles on the halos where you're doing that stuff like that, a lot of folks will say that that's not going to cut it. It's more expensive than the $2 pool noodle, but fire resistant roll cage padding in any area where you physically contact that cage is not that expensive. So here is for $22, fits up to 2-inch roll bars right here on Jags, and you could poke around and find more of it.
Probably a 3-foot stick, I think, I would imagine.
Yes. In fact, I see details of it here, right here,
Yeah,
3
3
feet
foot
long, 2.5 diameter, 3/4 of an inch thick. And it actually, and not only it feels harder than the pool noodle, but it's going to be more wear resistant. So on that lower, on the door bars or places where you're touching or bashing your helmet a lot, it's going to take that abuse for years. And it's usually sticky on the inside, so you don't have to use nearly as many zip ties and things like that. So these are,
But you still need some zip ties no matter what.
you need some, no matter what.
Anywhere you're going to
But you don't have to
on
do
it,
like
yeah.
40 of them, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
And I was resistant to this too, because like any other racer, I'm a sandwich pockets and I'm cheap and I don't like to spend money until I have to. And this is a good time to, brown bag it for a week, come up with that $25 and buy yourself a 3-foot tube of this and start putting it into your roll cage. So,
And make sure you have enough of it. This should be anywhere where you as a driver might contact the cage.
That was going to be my question. Is
So
there a
like
good
down by your feet even.
Is there
Things
is
like
there
that.
a good does like the Lemons rule book have a good picture or explanation, or you just take it as
Well,
what
sit in
you're
your
thinking?
car. Sit in your car and think about if you are going over and over and over and over in a spectacular rollover, where might your limbs and body hit things? Yep. Do a little
Wacky
dance in your car.
wacky waving
podcast-
inflatable arm man.
The
Yeah.
podcast people cannot see the dance that
Mental's
Mental
dance.
just did.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
and
think of
so
anywhere anywhere you might hit. Do you want to hit a actual really strong hard piece of metal, or do you want to hit some fairly hard but designed to deform with impact foam.
And that when you're doing that touch up with the paint, you're in there with your can of paint, your brush, everywhere that you're seeing excessive scuff marks or any place that you've seen, helmet paint, that's where you need some of that tubing. Because clearly, even just getting in and out of the car, you're knocking something that you didn't think you were.
Yep.
If it's like some of our early cars, you built it, you sat in it, it was great. And then you notice that with the helmet, oh God, everything's so much shorter and I'm not nearly as flexible as I used to be. So, it's an evolving design.
We've all changed over the years in a variety of ways.
Yes.
But, things may not be the same as they used to be. They might be good enough.
I
And-
weigh the same amount as I did a year ago, but I know that I am occupying more physical space than I used to, especially in the
Yep.
center.
And last is, what are the little tiny things you might be able to add to your cage and make it better? Like, how about a bucket for your drink holder that's attached to the cage well, that you can put that in and out easily when you get in and out of the car.
Why buy something? We have.
I
a
mean,
great
we like
setup.
the windshield washer jug. Cut the top off the windshield washer jug, poke some zip tie holes in it, and it works out
We,
great.
like,
But this is a
prefer
nice
that.
long acre
And
one.
and
This is
and,
lovely.
and I'm throwing this up there as design inspiration. If you want to buy it, it's only $30 here on this is it's an eBay ad, but exactly what Chris and Chrissy are talking about. You can just have one of these things right there on your roll cage.
But yeah, but
Oh,
it
has
can
a
be
roll
literally
cage?
it can be
Attachment.
literally free from the recycle
Well,
bin.
Oh, right.
And-
Or you buy the $3 jug, you put it in all your cars, and then you use but we
Right.
like it because it fits. Not every, we use Camelbacks. Not everybody uses the little, like
Insulated thermos
thermos
jugs.
type. Yeah. But it fits everything. It also fits other crap. So if you, when we were going long stints, we were putting goos in there. You put, like, if you need other things, you can put them in there. So I think ours
I also
setup is
like-
great.
I like the soft plastic ones because they're deformable. Like, should you be in a crash, you are not going to be injured by the soft
Mm.
plastic thing as opposed to a metal bucket that you might be injured by.
Just
So
make sure
think
that
about
it's the edges are not sharp. 'Cause I
And
think
in
our
addition
edges are sharp.
to, the drink holder that you've picked up, some other things, maybe you're running with an iPad now because you're doing some sort of telemetry, but like everything else, it was just, let's try this. And it's held in place by an impressive engineering aspect of 37 zip ties.
And 3 self-tapping screws.
Yeah,
And
into
some duct
very
tape.
sharp, flappy sheet metal. And maybe it's time to sit down, rethink that in a 1G 0 ground speed environment where you would like to be able to see it a little higher or a little lower so it's not blocking the windshield or things like that. And you can properly mount these things to your dash bar that's going across your roll cage.
Other
yes,
things to think
these
about
roll.
Yeah,
here
right.
are
You're adding lots of good things here.
a tether for your radio cord. So anyone that works in a office building probably has an ID badge with an RFID code, right? And a lot of those, they give you a little spring-loaded tether that you put it on, that you can extend it to put it in, go to the scanning thing. You know what those are great for? The radio cord from your car to your helmet. That way, when it unplugs, it pulls up out of the way, but it does very gently. When you need it back, you grab it and pull it back down. It does that way. It doesn't get stuck behind your driver's back when they're already belted in. You're trying to get them in and plug the radio in.
Oh,
Nope.
no.
Right, right,
move,
exactly. You
move.
can't get it.
Yeah.
All it takes is
Forward.
Yeah, right.
a couple of zip ties on the back of that to hold that to the cage, and then the little tether.
I
attachment
was
for the
90% certain I
ID.
had one in my desk drawer. I was going to pull it out.
Right.
I know exactly what it is.
One is right over there with my ID badge. Oh, right there.
There it is. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zzz.
Boom.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep. Just
That's
use
a
that,
great one.
and that'll help. Keep you tethered out of the way. Another thing. Sharp exposed metal edges that are on things. Like, for example, if you've cut your door apart to have door bars go in there and you've still got those sharp metal edges, go on Amazon and buy a roll of door edge guard stuff. It's like a little plastic U, and it just presses onto all that stuff and gives you a nice soft surface. So you're not going to cut your expensive roll cage when you rub on it wrong, or you're not going to slice your arm open.
Yeah, that's
when
more
you're
of what I was
working on
thinking of.
things.
Why?
Right.
Here's
You're
100
quick-
feet of it for $100.
Quick on the links today.
And who needs 100 feet of it still, realistically?
All the cars.
Bring that with you to
Sure.
the race, whatever you
Yes.
don't use, and you've got beer for the rest of your time. Hey, I can help you guys out right here. Oh,
I th-
thank you. Have a beer.
I bought a roll of white stuff for, it was like a 20-foot roll is all I could find. It was like $15. I used it for one product I needed that was non-car related, and I used like 2 or 3 feet of it. And then when I was cutting the door open in the Civic, I said, "Huh, I've got that roll of stuff," and I lined the whole door cutouts with it, and it's great. And it's way better than the duct tape that is going to fail over time and just leave
Yeah. Yeah.
stringy bits of goo, as duct tape
Because
does when it fails.
glue breaks down under temperatures, and this is grippy rubber. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is meant to do what it is. Mhm. Yes.
But the tape
That's
works.
what else. You guys have any other thoughts on things to add?
No, this is a rock solid list of things that you have done over the years to make our driving experience way better.
I didn't do all of them, but I did a lot of them.
Mm.
Yeah, especially on the new
Mhm.
car. And hey, what ideas do you guys have out there that you think are great additions to a cage that people should consider? Because I know there's stuff out there that we're not mentioning that you all have done in your endless creativity that can help
Mike
everyone
K,
else.
we're looking at you, Mike K. You have got a series of lessons learned as your cars have evolved, and we could probably do a show about things that you figured out while building cars.
Our listeners have made a lot of mistakes too, so let's all learn from each other's
We're
mistakes there.
we're
Great.
all watching Corey, our friend Corey Dickman, IOE superstar. He is his newest project is encapsulating every lesson learned, not just from him in building 9 IOE cars, but from all of us and all of our experiences and terrible cars that he's driven and great cars that he has driven. And we are all actually aggressively paying attention to what he's doing in this thread, because it is, oh yeah, I'm going to do that on my next car. And it's a whole lot of Corey saying, I swore I would never do this again. And he's not. And it's been interesting watching that happen.
I think the door bars are huge. I'm thinking back, and I'm pretty sure it was the Cressida. First set of door bars were flat, and they brought the car over the one time. I think.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Dave brought the car for the day, and we put new door bars in, and I've driven the car since, and it's so much nicer to deal
Right.
with now than it
Yeah.
was before.
It takes extra work, but it's worth it. And not safety alone, but also just comfort. And especially if you're going to be in the car for a while, just think about what's annoying you and what things could. But
Yes. What's
having
annoying you? That's a
what's an-
great thing. Address everything that's annoying you.
having just made those door bars for the Civic, I can't get over how much difficulty we had with them, though. They're just because the
They're-
bend has to be in the right place. It's got to meet. It's the notches are weird because they're on multiple planes, because you're dealing with,
Yep.
when you make the bend in one way, and it took us like a whole day to make a set of door bars, pretty much, maybe most of an afternoon anyway. So it's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
And I'll throw one more out there. If you've got an annoying problem and you're not sure how to fix it, get a hold of us. And if we don't know how to fix it, I am willing to bet that we know somebody who knows how to fix it between the
Probably.
Yep.
group of racers on that, or one of our listeners will absolutely have a suggestion for how you can make that annoying thing in your car better for the upcoming season.
Agreed.
Yeah, good topic. Glad that you came up with all of these things that you're making our car better, safer.
Yeah, if you guys hadn't figured this out, this was an all Chris episode. So thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
No, this is great. Good suggestions.
Yes. Do we have just the tip, or
I can come up with one.
Well, we can do an on the spot.
Okay, go ahead.
What is a change that you've had in a race car that you've had, a change that you've made, or one that you've experienced going from one car to another that you've said, wow, this is great. I'm really happy that this car has this, and I'm going to make sure other cars have this in the future.
We've talked about it before, but it's big enough of a change. and I feel like every team that sticks with this hobby goes through this, and it is the upgrading of your initial cheap and light as possible Kirky seat to a proper formed molded seat with a halo. You don't have any more pinch points. There's no more just, that one part of your lower butt cheek gets numb. Just a good well-mounted quality seat. And it's an investment. I get it. It's an investment, but a great, well-mounted, thought out seat. Even if it's the ones where they're too big for you, it's just easier to get your padding adjusted than it is on one of those square aluminum style. And I'm not bagging on the Kirkies. They actually make some really well done seats, but their entry level stuff is meant for, guys that are cruising in hot rods or drag racers, and they do not translate well into endurance racing.
I'm going to go on the seat realm as well, but driver positioning. So I cannot forget how bad the old Civic driver positioning seat, how far away the steering wheel was from the seat, no matter where you were, and no matter where the seat was positioned on the sliders, and also sometimes it's tipped back too far. I don't know what you did, but everything is so much better. I guess at least in the Mazda, I think, but most other cars, you took the
once we
feedback.
changed the seat in the Civic, we made that improvement. It was back with the old Momo seat that it was just too far away. Basically before it was either pushing your head forward, or then I adjusted it back so it wasn't pushing your head forward, and then it was your arms are too far away,
Right.
especially for a car that fought you in the steering as much as that car did. But
Yeah,
it got a
that
lot
was
better
huge.
yeah, totally. All right. We talked about this in the show, but I cannot get away from having door bars that are good and are actually extended out into the door and safe and triangulated. And I like the bent bar style that we do, because if you were to get hit in that door, all those bars are pushing away or trying to deform the cage away from you. And there's nothing to bend in on itself. It's all just, if you think about the force vectors in that, it's really just pushing everything away. And it's really easy to get in and out. And it's easy.
You've added a foot of energy absorption. That's the grill of the car that's coming in your side door, and it's got to cover this much more as opposed to, being right on your shoulder. Yeah.
And it's just so much nicer of a place to be when it's that way. Yeah.
I have so much more space for activities. And I'm going to give an honorable mention, and I'm not doing this to stir up any nonsense, but an honorable mention to dead pedals.
Oh, yes, not the racing team. Was like, yeah, dead pedals, they're very nice people.
No, I meant yes. Okay, I'm sorry. I see where you're going with this. I'm not very smart. It's actually funny,
that's
and I ruined it. Yeah.
my brain. That's where my brain goes. I will completely agree with this sentiment. Dead pedals all the way. Whether it is a little foam thing, I guess foam is probably along the same realms of a pool noodle, which is probably not great for you to have. Yes, dead pedal all the way. And not just a little nub, not just a little washer, whatever you had on there before. No.
As your car gets faster, you're going to want something to brace against. So, yeah. All right.
I like that idea.
Totally.
So next week, my esteemed co-host will not be here.
No, that's not true.
Why will we not be here? What great momentous should be national holiday, but isn't? Are we celebrating that you won't be available?
It's not for 2 weeks, but okay.
2 weeks. I'm sorry. Never mind. We have no idea what we're talking about next week.
We have no idea what we're talking about.
We don't even know who's going to be here.
Next week is my birthday. The national holiday that is my birthday.
It's birthday season because we do this. It goes Chrissy, Chris, then me.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic.
Fantastic.
Send your gifts.
You don't have to send any gifts. Don't send gifts. Just you listening. If you do feel so compelled, make a donation to a safety organization and then send us a screenshot of it.
You can send GIFs. You make an animated animated video it's funny. You can send those. Everyone likes those. Anyway, hey, thanks for downloading us. Hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Everyone Racers. Hope you will join us in the world of driving, racing, and building, because everyone can be a racer, even you. Yeah, I know you don't think so, but you can. If you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe. Totally free. Go to your podcatcher of choice and give us that 5-star rating. Don't care what you thought of us. 5 stars, and tell us what you think. Questions, show ideas, comments, drop those on anywhere you can think of that we're around. So Facebook, Everyone Racers, everyone.racers@gmail.com, all the other social medias at Everyone Racers. YouTube, you name it, we're there.
I get a lot
So-
of funny stuff from Instagram. We got like 4 different versions of that of the Lada that does the money shift at the rally, and it shows the
Perfect.
pistons just come out from underneath it, and that was a great one. Thank you everyone who shared that with us on the Insta.
And Mental loves to get junk pictures by text, especially
do.
without
I really do.
without asking for them. 484-243-0455 spontaneous junk pics. Anyway, and thanks again. And until next week, keep the shiny side up. And especially if you haven't added extra braces to your roll car, then really just keep the wheels down.